around this material especially because the material in this extraordinary series of books, Conversations with God, has had an enormous impact on people around the world. And after having read the books, what people want to know is how can we apply that to daily life? And what does daily life, for that matter, have to do with what's in those books? Now, I have had a very interesting couple of days, and I want to share with you a little bit about that because I've been thinking about the last 2 days that I've had and to see how those days fit into what I've learned in the books that have come through me. In the past 2 days, I have had two extraordinary experiences. Number one, I finished writing a book, the latest book in the With God series of books, which is called Tomorrow's God, Our Greatest Spiritual Challenge. I finished that book at 10:30 in the morning 2 days ago. And I hit the send button and sent it off to New York City, to my publisher. And then the next morning, the next day, I began my final rehearsals, and today I began filming a motion picture, a full-length motion picture, in which I have the starring role. And it's filming right here in Ashland. And I got to the set at 6:45 and to do makeup, and they put me on the location, and we began filming. And it was a fascinating experience. And I've learned a great deal today about life from filming that movie, and I learned a great deal in this past week from finishing my book. First, I would just like to share with you a bit about the book. Not what's in it so much, but the process. Because 3.5 weeks ago, there wasn't any book. There were only a few words, half of the first chapter, really. As it turned out, the book is, I think, 26 or 27 chapters long. But 3.5 weeks ago, we had maybe half of the first chapter. And I was a bit late getting started on the book, one might say. But I had a deadline, and my publisher really wanted me to meet that deadline, if I could, because many, many plans had been put into place around that publication. And a lot of dominoes have to fall in a certain way in order for everything to work out at the end. So for this book to come out in April or May of 2004, I have to have the book done by yesterday, or the day before, I guess. So there I was, about 3.5 weeks outside of that deadline, thinking, my gosh, I've got to write a book, essentially, a whole book, in 3.5 weeks. And it looked like that was not something that could be done, or done well, if at all. Now, I don't know if it's been done well. The reviews aren't in yet, so we'll know about that. But I'm very pleased with what occurred, with what's come through. I gave it a tremendous, tremendous effort, and many, many hours of deep concentration over a very short period of time. I'm a binge writer anyway. The first 10 chapters of the New Revelations was written in 6 days. So I had confidence that I could probably do that, because if I wrote 10 chapters in 6 days, it seemed to me that I could write 20 in 12 days, and like that. And so I thought, well, I can write a book in 3.5 weeks. But life was contriving to make it more and more difficult, because a lot of things were happening in the period of time that I had open to me. I'm sharing this story with you for a reason. I don't know how huge the challenges that lie in front of you in your life are. I'm sure they're very big, because they're big for all of us. And no one's challenges, I've learned through the years, are a whole lot different than anyone else's. They just have different names, different titles, but the stories are virtually the same in their most important parts. But whatever your challenge is, I have a suspicion that it can't be a whole lot larger of a challenge than writing a book in 3.5 weeks that purports to tell the world about a new kind of God and a new kind of civilization that we could have if we embraced this new version of God. And so I'm telling you this story because I want you to know that whatever challenge is confronting you right now in your life, you can do it. And the ingredient that I've discovered that has made it possible for me to meet the challenges in my life is simply refusing to harbor a thought for even a moment that I can't do it. I have to be honest with you that it never occurred to me that I couldn't finish this book on time. And although I did have some doubts there for a while, but in the main, I was steadfast in my knowingness that I would finish that project. And always it has been thus in my life, I must say. To be honest, even before the Conversations with God material came to me and through me, somehow in my life, I've always had the idea that what I set my mind to do, I would do. And that what I chose to do, I could do. And the idea of failure has not really seriously occurred to me in my lifetime. The idea that I just couldn't do something. Now that's true for a lot of people, I guess. I'm not unusual, I don't think, in that regard. But it's also not true for a lot of people as well. And I suspect that it's not true for almost as many people as it is true for. I think it's maybe 50-50. In fact, I think we'd be lucky if it were 50-50. I think more people do consider that failure is a possibility, and some people think that failure is a probability as they approach the challenges and the undertakings of their life. I, on the other hand, for whatever reason, I'm not sure I know what happened to me as a child, but something occurred in my childhood that made it impossible for me to seriously embrace the idea of failure. And I'm grateful for that, whatever it was. I'm sure it had to do with my upbringing at some level, obviously. But somehow or another, my parents got through to me that it was going to all work out and I was going to do well and not to worry about that. And frankly, I haven't worried about it a lot. So I want to share that with you tonight. Because my hope is that if any of you and any of you at home are facing a challenge right now or have some big mountainous task that you need to undertake, or if there is something in front of you that's just looming in your future that feels like a daunting task, that you too could just, maybe from the words I've spoken tonight, gather a bit of encouragement about and around that, and to say, you know what, Neil's right. Truth is, it'll probably all work out. And I can climb this mountain. And it's going to be okay. But here's the second part of the formula, if I could be so bold as to suggest that I might have a formula. We must not only have, it seems to me, enormous faith that things will work out well and that we can climb that mountain, but we must be willing to do whatever it takes to manifest that in our reality. That is, we must have enormous stick-to-itiveness, absolute commitment to the creation, and complete clarity that there's nothing more important right now in our life than that. And if we are willing to approach whatever we're looking at in those ways, with those qualities, and to not let go of the goal until it has been reached, and that's the most important thing, to not let go of the goal until it has been reached. Or to put it another way, to refuse to take no for an answer from life. If I had to give people one sentence of advice with regard to things like this, it would be that. Never take no for an answer from life. Life will say yes to you if you insist on it. But you have to insist on it.